FIIO IEM buying guide. Yes, this is a similar format to what I did to the Moondrop buying guide video. Today we're going to be covering 7 FIIO IEMs. Let's jump into it. Hey friends, Tim here back to another video on Giz Audio, and as you know, there are a lot of FIIO IEMs out there in the market. There's over, I think, like 20 of them right now that are actively listed and still available to purchase. Today we'll be covering 7 of them from the FH and the FD line. That being said, I don't have every single IEM from those two lines either. There are 1 or 2 that are missing, and the reason they're missing is simply because I haven't really gotten a chance to get a hold of them due to various different reasons. Alright, so if they're missing from this video, I simply have not tried them. Let's start off with FIIO's most exciting line of IEM, the FH line. If you guys do not know, FH, the H stands for hybrid, and for the FD, the D is for dynamic driver, and the A in FA is for balanced armatures, right? So FH, they're all hybrids. FH3, first one starting off, this thing is extremely popular amongst anyone who's new to the hobby because it has a signature that is very easy to like. Has a lot of bass, a lot of sub bass, decently wide stage. The only nitpick I have with the FH3 is the mid-range. It does not have the most natural feeling mid-range, has this bit of an awkward unevenness there. But all in all, as a beginner IEM, as a new to the hobby style IEM, V-shaped mainstream style signature, it is done well, and for the price, I would say is worth it. Now, if you can stomach a little bit more than $130, there's the next one, which is arguably an improvement. And that next one is the FH5. Now the FH5 is tuned very similar to the FH3. It still has the same good bass, same treble, same slightly bit wonky mid-range, but all in all, it is more well defined. The details are better resolution-wise, stage-wise, and imaging are also better. So the FH5 again is just a straight upgrade to the FH3, and for arguably not so much more. Depends on where you look to buy this. Let me explain. The MSRP of this is $260, which is double the price of the FH3. Now for that price, I would say not so worth it. But nowadays, these are very cheap, especially if you live in the United States. You can find these on discount for like $150 sometimes, $160 sometimes, or even cheaper than that if you're willing to buy a used pair. So if you want to save up just a little bit extra from the FH3, I would highly suggest just getting the FH5 instead. It is the FH3, but just better in every single way. For not so much more, $20, $30 more, absolutely worth getting over the other one. Now, if you live anywhere else in the world, $260, I would say it's a little bit steep. It's still a better choice than the FH3. And if I were to pick just one, if I really don't want to buy too many IEMs, if I were to only pick just one between the two, I still buy the FH5 at $260 over the FH3 because it is just that much better. A little steep, but I still prefer this. But again, if you're in the US, save up for this instead. Just skip the FH3 entirely. Now, the next one in the lineup is arguably the best looking IEM in the FIIO collection by far. I've loved how this looks ever since it was first released. Man, I'm looking at it now and it's just so darn gorgeous. This is the FIIO FH5s. Yes, the dragon scale looking IEM, sexy machinery beast right here. I just really like how this thing looks. The sound though is unfortunately a downgrade from the FH5. Technical wise, I would say is on par with the FH3. So across the board, this is not such a good IEM in comparison to the predecessors, which is also cheaper than the FH5s. The only thing it has going for it is the looks. The biggest thing that this thing got wrong for me was the mid-range. It's just uneven across the board. There's a dip in the lower mid-range. There's an elevation in an awkward area in the upper mid-range, so giving you this weird level of energy while at the same time feeling a little bit behind. It's just uneven mid-range across the board. I just don't like the way this is tuned. So kind of a shame, because if this was tuned similar to the FH5 or the FH3, I would highly recommend this one just for the looks alone. You guys can see from the picture, it's just so darn good looking. Unfortunately, the sound doesn't follow. So for this one, I would say it's a hard skip skip. Now there's one more FH IEM that I would like to talk about. This one is a little bit cheaper, coming in at the same price as the FH3, around $130, but arguably this thing has the best tuning out of every single FIIO IEM that I've heard of to date. And it's only $130. This one is the FHE. This is a critical collaboration tuned by the neutral god guy himself. This one is just phenomenal. The mid-range, the vocals comes across realistic and natural. It's something that the FIIO line has always kind of lacked for me in every single one of the IEMs that I listen to. The mid-range is just not done super correctly until the FHE came out. So this fixes all that problem. The tuning is super well done, vocals super nice, and also if you're a bass lover, which you are, if you're a FIIO IEM fan, you love bass, this thing has bass that will just destroy your world. This is a bass head IEM only. If you do not like bass, or if you don't like bass as much as the next guy, this IEM is just not for you, because the bass on here is super strong, both in the sub bass and the mid bass. But the best part is, it's so clean. It doesn't bleed into the mid-range in any way. Again, like I stated, the mid-range is so well done. Even with the powerful bass that it has, the mid-range is still really clean and well separated. The treble is also decently done as well. Nothing to really write home about, you know. The main highlight of this IEM is really in the bass and how well the mid-range is. And for me, $130, this is easily the best FIIO IEM you can grab. It might not have the best technical performance in all FIIO IEMs, the FD line. There's a couple of them that does better, but all in all, is a phenomenally tuned IEM. And in the FH line, I highly recommend this one the most. There's also the FH7 that I'm missing from today's video. I've not tried that one, so we're gonna skip past that and on to the FD line, in which we have 3 of them, the FD3, 5, and 7. Let's start out with the cheapest one first, the FD3, coming in at around $120, $150, depends on what package you get. This thing is a warm V-shaped style IEM. Actually, all 3 of them share the same style of tuning with a little bit of differences here and there. They're all warm-ish V-shaped mainstream style signatures. So for those of you who don't like warm signature, these 3 are absolutely not for you. But for some of you out there, especially for the mainstream market, warm style V-shapes are very pleasing and easy on the ears, easy to love for generally a lot of people. So let's start off with the FD3 here. Now this has the least amount of details out of all of them, but it is $200 cheaper than the FD5 and almost $600 cheaper than the FD7. So for the price that it's at, it's actually not a bad purchase. I would say it's decent, run-of-the-mill, average $100 IEM. If you buy this, you're not gonna be disappointed in any way. If you like the signature, you're gonna enjoy this one. There's really not too much to hate. The one thing I really love about the FD3 though is the build quality. It is built so well. For a $100 IEM, FIIO really went all out for this IEM. Now the biggest con I would say is in the tuning. Is a little bit too warm for me, and this is true for the FD5 and the FD7 as well. I feel the same way about all 3 of these IEMs, is that the tuning is really not my preference. It's just a little bit too warm. The vocals just don't feel as natural as they can be, not as clean as they can be. The bass does feel like it bleeds into the lower mid-range just a little bit. It's more apparent on the FD3 than the other ones. All in all, for a mainstream style signature, a lot of people are gonna like this. For those of you who are more veterans in this hobby, you guys might just wanna skip over the FD line. In general, it's just not the style of tuning that's very high fidelity, and high fidelity means the perfect, or as close as possible recreation of the original sound. It doesn't have quite the high fidelity type of sound, the audiophile type of sound, but for just fun listening, beginner style of tuning, the FD3 and these FD5 and 7 are okay. Now on to the FD5. Now the FD5 and the FD3 are largely the same story. Tuning wise, they're about 98% the same. It's the same story with the FH5 and FH3, where the FD5 is just a straight upgrade to the FD3. So if you have extra money, you would go for the FD5 instead of the FD3, because again, this is just a straight upgrade. One caveat though, this thing is $200 more than the FD3. Is it worth $200 more to get this? I would say not really, because the only improvement that you get is going to be in the detail department, which is not a big enough improvement to me to warrant paying $200 more for this than the cheaper option. You can make do with the FD3 just fine, but if you do so have the money and you want the FD3 style tuning, just better technicalities across the board, then you would go for the FD5. Now, largely for the most different of all the tuning in the FD line is the FD7. Now, this has similar tuning to the FD5 and 3, yes, but instead of being more on the V-shaped side, it is a little bit more open, a little bit more natural, a little less warm than the FD5 and 3. So for me, this is easily the best tune. It has the most correct sounding mid-range out of the FD line. It still has really good bass and good treble area as well. This is, for me, my favorite out of the line. Also, when it comes to detail retrieval, this is the best as well. Now, the biggest caveat is that this is $700, so double the price of FD5 and $600 more than the FD3. Now, is all the good qualities I mentioned, all the good upgrades, is that worth the extra bit of money for this? I would say not quite. It is quite a steeply priced IEM, premiumly priced IEM, but you can't deny the fact that it is simply the best sounding one in the FD line and the best performing technical as well. So if you have money to spare, if you want just the best of this style of signature, you would go for the FD7. Now, one thing that I would suggest you guys do if you guys want to spend this kind of money, I would suggest not getting the FD7, not getting the FD5. I would suggest you get the FD3, the FH5, and the FHE, right? Just get 3 IEMs for the price of around a little bit over half of the FD7. And that way, you get 3 different signatures, 3 different flavors of mainstream sound, and for me, that is a much better way of enjoying the hobby than just getting one $700 IEM that sounds quite similar to the FD5 and the FD3. So yes, if you're gonna buy the FD7, if you have the money for the FD7, I would suggest instead that you buy the FD3, FH5, and FH3. Just buy these 3 IEMs. You're gonna be very, very happy with your collection. But of course, your money is your money. If you wanna buy the FD7, it is the best one in the line. All right, and that's it for this video today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what other buying guide you want me to make, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Bye.
君が笑うだけで何でもできる気がする一緒に